Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast. My name is Luke Irvin, and today we've got an epic episode lined up for you. But before we jump into that, just want to let you guys know real quick, we've got some brand new merchandise up on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 new shirts as well. If you like today's episode, please also leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our email newsletter. With nothing else to say, let's jump into today's episode. Hello, A Taste of AZ listeners. We are here today in, what is this, Central Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay. And I will have our guests introduce where we are and who you are.
My name's Danny Quinn. We are at Pubblico Italian Eatery on 7th Street, just south of Bethany Home.
And you mentioned what it is, Italian Eatery, but give me a little more. What is your guys' kind of mentality when it comes to Italian cooking?
So, really classic. So the chef, I met the chef when I moved here from California, and he was classically trained Italian, not in any school, just kind of hard knocks, right? There was a restaurant called Lombardi's way back in the early 90s in Phoenix, downtown, and that's kind of where he cut his teeth.
Okay.
So my thought was to bring that classic Italian dishes in a kind of more hip environment, try to blend the two. Usually you get that classic Italian and, the Italian, it's, carpet on the floor, tchotchkes on the wall. It's that type of place.
Sure.
So I was trying to bring kind of a hipper feel.
And this place is definitely very hip, not only because of this spot itself, but this kind of building complex that you're in is very cool as well. Kind of describe where we are in terms of the complex.
So I'm around back, which, so it's the Crown building, which apparently was an arts and crafts warehouse before this. A lot of locals will come, older locals will go, I used to buy my paper flowers here or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, so this was just a big warehouse. Apparently it was pretty beat up and dilapidated, and the gentleman that bought it, converted it into the Crown. This is what they call it, Crown on 7th. So it's the Crown building. Consists of retail, and there's 4 restaurants in here: Wildflower, Elevated Seltzer, Ritos, Mexican, and then us.
Okay. That's a nice little breakdown too.
Yeah.
It's not like you just have 4 Italian spots.
No, I wouldn't probably make it. Yeah.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of your background. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in California, Santa Barbara. I got into the restaurant business early, and just kind of worked my way up. Started as a busboy and worked my way up. Worked for a family that they own multiple locations. Their first restaurant was on the harbor, Santa Barbara Harbor, opened in 1986. And, just kind of worked my way up through, bussing tables, bartending, serving, managing, and at the end I was multi-unit. I was running all the locations, and just had always wanted to do my own thing. California's tough though for business, to start a business, and so I had a friend that was out here. My kids were young enough where we could make the move, and he owned a restaurant in the Arizona Center. It was Cucina. That's where I met the chef.
Okay.
He was having trouble with it and said, "Hey, look, come out here, try to help me turn this thing around." And, we worked out a deal. So I was able to move my family out here. The problem with the Arizona Center, though, is that was back before they were doing, well, the problem with the Arizona Center is dead, unfortunately. I didn't know this, though, coming from California.
Sure.
I go into Metro Phoenix, I'm thinking, why aren't you doing big numbers here? This is right downtown, blah, blah, blah. I could list off the reasons why they're not doing well and why nothing's open in there right now. But so there was no saving that. Through that and a friend out of California, I met the gentleman that bought this and converted this. And they loved the food. I saw the talent in the chef, and so I said, look, this ain't gonna make it. We're gonna close this down. But he went off and got a job for a little while. I worked on this, and Pubblico was born.
So when you were kind of making your way up in the restaurant industry, you knew from early on that you wanted to have your own spot someday.
Yeah, I was going to college for a while, kind of trying to feeling it out, and I just was good at this, and so you get kind of, this is the kind of industry where you have to be a small bit insane, right? And then,
sure.
And then it's just,
I say a bit of a masochist.
Yeah. I function well when everything's hard.
Okay, yeah.
So everything's always hard, the restaurant business. So.
Was there other things that drew you to it? Did you like serving
I'm a people person.
Okay.
And, when you find something you're good at and people tell you you're good at it, and then you realize, I am pretty good at this. It's a trial and error, especially opening your own place, and there's lots of mistakes. I think the key is, with anything, right, is just learn from mistakes, right? You're going to make them, but, learn from them. I am... Sorry about that. I should have.
No worries. That's just stuff happening. It's a restaurant, right?
Yep. So I am I'm a good leader as well. I think people like to work for me. A lot of the people that work in this location, which I opened 4 years ago, still work for me. I lead by example. I also understand, because I've worked every position in the restaurant. I understand their struggle, and I understand, their money. I pay attention to their money. They'll always tell you, like, Danny's constantly like, I'll always ask, are you making money? Are you doing, I won't overstaff something. I'll always try to staff it just right so there's not too much staff on, and servers are making their money, bartenders are making their money, because, happy staff, that translates over to the customer.
It's really such a dance, right? Because you hear in this day and age, like, everyone's understaffed.
Yep.
You don't really hear often, you don't want to overstaff.
Yeah.
It makes sense if you think about it a little bit more. But I would say it seems like it was very crucial for you doing your job now to have gone through all those different positions.
Yeah. And California teaches you that. California doesn't have a tip credit like here, right? So we deal with way higher wages over there. So you have to be, like, that's what you can control on the floor, right? So you have to know scheduling and making sure you're not overstaffing. And
what is it like dealing with a nuance like that? That seems like it would completely change what it's like keeping employees around.
It is. You can keep the solid core employees, and then every season you're bringing in people. And I think what people are dealing with the understaffing, what I've noticed is kitchen is a lot. That's been kind of the understaffing. So that's tough. It's still, I'm not going to say it's easy. Okay, here's what it's not. It's not easy to find good employees.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to sound like the old guy that says get off my lawn, but it's not the same.
Sure.
The employees
absolutely.
have changed. They just have. I'm 48, so I'm not that old, but it's not the same. I think people are, I don't know. People don't come in with the same attitude that they used to, right? You're a busboy with a goal on becoming a server, which means I have to kick ass being a busboy, right? And that doesn't happen anymore.
Sure.
It's just, it's my birthday week, so I'm calling out for a week.
Yeah, well,
I don't even understand that.
I hate bringing up COVID at this point,
Yeah.
right? Because nobody likes talking about it anymore.
I know,
but it seems like it really had a crazy effect on
did.
people's mentality and what work means to them. And I think, a lot of people were in industries they didn't like being in before, and it was kind of a catalyst to move them out of it. And food and beverage being shut down the way it was obviously didn't help anything. But it's interesting, too, because it feels like food and beverage, and I think people like you were conscious of it beforehand, but it gave business owners a chance to kind of relook at things and make sure that the practices that they were doing were benefiting their employees.
Yep.
And, you touched on that a little bit yourself, but with staffing, like, how do you ensure that you are finding a good employee? What is a good employee in a restaurant? Because that's a question I've never asked before.
That's a good question, because I can't hire, or I can't train character and personality. I can teach everything else in the restaurant business. So really that's what you look for, or what we look for. Because I personally, I don't know, when you go out, I don't like robots.
Sure.
Right? I like a little personality. I'll razz my server a little bit. They'll get the hint, like, oh, this guy, we can talk some shit, right?
Yeah.
So like I like that, right? That to me is a good, with good food, and and there's points of service, right, that have to be, refill your water, just little things that have to stay consistent. But beyond that, like, I like a little bit of fun and character, and and I feel like that's what will build that's where regulars come back. And
Sure.
I feel when it's really robotic, and it can be in the corporate world. Look, there's things I've hired people from the corporate world that they bring good habits, right, with them, and I've noticed sometimes I can loosen them up a little bit and like, oh, you always had that personality. You just weren't able to use it over there, right? So there's that. But, that's where really what we try to hire is the character meaning like, I need a job. I'm going to show up on time.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Hardworking, those kind of things.
Yeah. So, and then the personality. So, I think what happened back to COVID, but back to that, I think what happened is like on the lower level, when I say lower level, I mean like entry level of hostess, busboy, their servers and bartenders make the amount of, they're making, you break it down, they're making $40 an hour. That's a good wage, right? So, but on the lower level, it's not as much. And I think what happened during COVID is they learned, a lot of them, hey man, I can just go drive Uber for 4 hours in any time of the day I want, which means I can get up at 2. I can play video games. I can take a couple bong loads, right? Like I get it, dude. I was 17
Absolutely.
before. I understand. So
hopefully not taking bong rips before they go drive.
No, but you know what I mean, right? So
yes.
so like I get it, and so and then make the same amount of money almost that you would, say hosting, where you're dealing with, a busy restaurant. It's a little stressful, right? People are mean. People can be a little bit angry with the hostess. If
I've seen it before.
Oh, yeah. So I get it. I get it, but I think that happened. I think that was a little bit. I think we lost a little bit of that. Just like the corporate world lost people to stay at home where, they realize I don't have to go into an office, kind of thing. So, so I think that same thing happened to us a little bit on that level anyway.
So bringing it back to your story, I believe you said it was 4 years ago that you opened up this spot. What was it like preparing to get this place open?
2018 March.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you're coming up on your 5th year anniversary pretty soon here. What is it like opening a restaurant? What are all the little things that go into it?
So like I said, so the company I work for in Santa Barbara, I opened 2 locations with them. But when you do it for yourself, and then I was on a shoestring, right? So take it back a little bit. So my number 2 in the company, I'd be number 1. My number 2 is my chef's son.
Oh, really?
Who's running Rockefeller right now.
Yes.
And so I brought him with me from the restaurant in the Arizona Center. I also brought his other son, who is the lead guy at my Scottsdale. So it's funny, I always say, because my Danny Garcia, I'm always like, hey, we're family owned and operated. My family owns it, but your family operates it, because it's like I have his nephew working over here, so it's big family.
I feel like it needs to be like that.
Oh yeah, it's better that way. It's better that way, yeah. So, but when we opened this, it was me, Edgar, 2 other people. I was bartending 7 days a week.
Wow.
Like I remember opening this and getting it open and telling Edgar, like, hey dude, I don't have enough to make the first payroll. So we gotta, you know what I mean? Like we gotta hope we do, you know what I mean? It was, but that's good. Like I said, I like that. I like operating like that. You know what I mean?
Forgive me if this is like too personal or too into your business of a question, but how do you get out of that? Is it, bringing on a loan? Is it just saving and saving until you can't get out of it?
You just got to grind, right? So like I said, I took the spot of being a bartender, right? And I'm not making any money out of the restaurant, so my family's living off whatever I can make there, right? And then, so you just, yes, it's a shell game, right? It's a lot. I mean, I could go through a laundry list of, calling a vendor and going, hey, I'm going to get you next month. And like, just
it's like musical chairs.
It's almost a lot of that, until you can build a business. And that's just, it's the struggle. And it's, every restaurant I've opened has been, none of them are easy, but different as far as I'm better financed every time I open one, right? So I don't deal with those things, but you're still always dealing with something.
Sure.
I opened Rockefeller. That was a whole totally new concept. There's already a Pubblico down the street from there, right? They're very close. So I couldn't, and there was already an Italian place in that center.
Yes.
Campo was next door to me. So, but that Rockefeller came about because I know the gentleman that owns the whole center. He eats at Pubblico, and he was like, what should I, he almost tricked me because he goes, hey, what should I put in here? During COVID, we were going to put a Thai restaurant in there. Their funding fell through, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, man, I think the only thing you have, I started talking about it, and he's like, great, when do we start? You know what I mean? I was like, hey, I didn't say I want to do it. You know what I mean? But then he gave me an offer I can't refuse. So we figured it out, and Rockefeller was born.
Wow.
But that's a whole new concept, right? So there's all new struggles we're dealing with there. You know, I always look to do another Pubblico. If I'm going to expand, it's good. I always try to do another Pubblico. So Rockefeller was just kind of a side project.
It's funny how that happens, though, right? That's like the universe almost like puts it all in front of you and says, here's like a perfect opportunity. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? And you're like,
I'll figure it
I
out.
got to do it, don't I?
I'll figure it out, yeah.
So when you open this place, you know, call it a year in, 2019, what was the response like? Did the neighborhood love it and pick up on it right away?
Our food's great. Danny's great. So that's always been a kind of a staple where people, you know, we make the pasta. It's all handmade. You know, we have wood fire pizzas. So our food's great. Again, it's not fine dining. You know what I mean? It's not Fat Ox. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I also can't, you know, if you've ever gone into a restaurant like Fat Ox, there's 27 people in the kitchen. Yeah, of course you can operate, because it's like this guy does this and he passes it to this guy and does this. Like, I don't operate like that, right? So I feel for what we have and the amount that the way we staff it, we execute it at the highest level possible in that in that realm. So we've always kind of relied on our food, and then secondary would be just that. Like, this is way more neighborhoody than any of my, you know, Scottsdale's can be seasonal, especially McCormick Ranch.
Yeah.
This stays pretty steady like through the year. And so building regulars, right? I mean, there's still people coming here that came day one, so that we see every week, or, you know, so and making them feel like this is their joint, right? That's the best way to keep. I think building a business is when your customer takes ownership. Like, okay, for an example, they'll tell you, hey, I got so-and-so coming in town for the holidays. We're bringing them here. You know what I mean? Because they feel like they're showing off their place, right, to that new. So that's where, that for me, that's the best compliment you can give me, you know? And we get a lot of that.
That's one of those things. It's the funniest thing when your family comes to town. It feels like, even more so than bragging about other things in your life, is like if you can take your family to a cool restaurant and they all love it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm the cool guy.
Yeah, I got the cool spot. So I feel like everybody has a Italian, a Mexican, like a Thai, like everybody's got in their, I know I do, you probably do, right? Everybody has this in their,
I might need your Thai recommendation.
In their arsenal, right? Where like, this is where
definitely
we go, right? And so you just got to become that Italian option.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so
how do you do that?
Just good service, good food, you know, and just it's nothing's quick, man. I've learned that. I've tried. You know what? I took this year, and took more money than I probably wanted to, but I had to figure out what works, right? And you had told me before we started this that you do a lot of marketing, and so I had to figure out what marketing works. Like, I had to. So I knew I had to put money into it, and I knew I had to I think what happens with restaurant guys, and I don't know if you've dealt with a lot of us, but I'm sure you have, Taste of AZ, right? The ROI's got to come quick, man, or we're pulling it. We're not doing it anymore, right? And I knew, especially when it comes to SEO type stuff, Google, that's a long game, right? Things like that's a long game, and I knew, common sense tells me I might not understand the techie part of it, because I don't. I'm definitely not techie, but I understood that it's a long game. So I tried everything this past year. I mean, I put money into Yelp ads. I put money into Google ads. I put, you know, you've met Victoria, or at least, you know, virtually. She's doing a lot of stuff for me right now, and we're just trying to figure out what works, especially in the restaurant world, because not everything works. And
it's always changing, too.
It's
constantly
changing.
A moving target.
Constantly a moving target, yeah. I don't know, like social media, like when I'm on the floor, especially when I built this out, I was on the floor all the time, and I'm constantly going to tables. How's it going? Hey, how'd you hear about us? I always ask, right? And I very rarely I saw you on my Instagram. But also, we didn't have any followers then. You know what I mean? I think that's changing a little now. I think we probably do, especially Rockefeller is more visually. Not that this place isn't cool, but Rockefeller's got the visually cool, like, hipster drinks, and you know what I mean? It's a little more. So I would imagine we probably get more business through that. But before, I was like, social media, are you sure? I don't know. Like, I know you have to have it because it's almost like your brand, right? People have to be able to see things, right? But I didn't know. But you know, they've come a long way. They have allowed Open Table to put their widget on the social on you know what I mean? So people can go, oh yeah, I'm going there. You know what I mean? And it makes it a quicker and then with the SEO, what I didn't understand before is how they can just track it. They can tell me, oh yeah, this person saw you here, went here, made a reservation. Like they can see all that. You know
it's
what I
so
mean?
satisfying too when you can create that chain of, understanding at that level what is actually bringing people in your doors. Because, I imagine if you just get your restaurant open and you're rolling, it should be a busy night and no one's in here. That's got to be one of the most nerve-wracking experiences. Just gut-wrenching, huh?
Yeah. I can't be in my restaurant when it's slow.
Yeah.
The staff will tell you. They're like, get out of here, because I'll just wear it on my face. I can't. You know what I mean? And you're gonna be slow on a Monday in the July. You know what I mean? So, it's hard for me. It is. It's hard for me. And it has nothing to do. If anyone who knows me, like, it has absolutely nothing to do with the money. Like, I don't.
You just need the
money.
energy going on.
I don't do this for money. This is more like you know what I mean? Like, I don't care about that. Like, it's not that. It's just I need the energy. It's like this to me is like having a busy, full action like happening restaurant. It's like winner. You know what I mean? Like I won that night. So that's more.
So having busy nights here led you to open Pubblico Scottsdale, and then the gentleman talks with you and says, "Let's open Rockefeller."
Yep.
What is Rockefeller?
So Rockefeller is changing because, like I said, it's a new concept. So what I wanted to do was small plates, feature the bar more. Have you been in there?
I have not. Okay. No, I've been right next to it at Compo.
Okay, so it's the bar is the feature. It's right in the middle. It's like a 30-seat bar. Right in the middle. I wanted to bring kind of backtrack. Edgar, who is my number 2, is also. I told you before we started this. I'm sober, so I've been sober 16 plus years.
Congratulations.
So I have no concept of the new style of drinking.
Sure.
Like, what people ask me about wine, it's like, it's red.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like beer. Remember you asked me if I was a beer guy? It's like, dude, when I was drinking, it was Coors Light and a shot.
Yeah.
Right? So, no. So he's all things, and he's really immersed into it. So we wanted to try to bring that kind of hip drink, that you see mostly in Phoenix and these cocktail bars, and try to bring that over there a little bit. What we're noticing is it's working in that sense because another thing in a restaurant, right? Say you go, we do it here at Pubblico a lot. If you look at our wine list, a lot of Italian varietals. Say you were to go and you drink a cab all the time, like that's your thing, and you're like, I'll just take your cab. And my bartender goes, have you ever tried, and it'll be something similar, or have the flavor profile of a cab, but it'll be an Italian wine, or blah blah blah. And you're like, no. We let you try it. You're like, that's fantastic. What is that? You show them the bottle. I just made probably a regular customer out of you because I just taught you something in Italian. It's cool, right? You feel cool. Like there's this Italian varietal. I normally
especially
just drink
when
cab.
You bring your friends and family in. Do that same thing.
So same thing over there, right? I told him, I said, look, people in McCormick Ranch are going to be my age. There's a younger crowd there, but they're going to be my age and older, right? They're going to be used to like lemon drops and Cosmos and, dirty martinis, which is great. And we have all that on the menu. But let's try to introduce them to some of this newer, hipper stuff, right? And do the same thing. Like, have you ever had this? Let me try it. Let me make you this. And I feel like that causes an interaction with a customer, and you can build a customer base that way. So Rockefeller was that. And then small plates, and I was and brought oysters to the game. There's no oysters going on in that area right there, right? What I'm learning is, I built too small of a kitchen because we got so busy last season that it was like, really? Oh my God, dude, yeah. Because I wanted to do, and then I think on the weekends we definitely get a really younger, sexy crowd comes in. I think during the week though, we need to, because you'll read the reviews. It'll be, food's fantastic, place looks great, wish the menu was bigger. So I'm in the process right now, believe it or not, of expanding my kitchen, but to expand it, I have to pull the walk-in that's in the kitchen. I'm putting it out back. So we just built a wall out back, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually going there right after meeting the electrician right after this. And it'll create a whole nother side of the kitchen where I can expand the menu.
Okay.
It'll be more comfortable. So I don't think Rockefeller has settled into what it's going to be yet.
That's a good problem to have in a way, though, I would imagine, that people want more. It's not like people are like, the cocktails are good, but the food is not that good. It's people begging for you to bring more to the table, which I think is pretty special.
And I think people want like a lot more. I'm gonna create a whole right now we can only, because the kitchen's so small, we can only offer one oyster, right? So I'm going to build a actual cold side. We'll be able to offer multiple oysters. We'll probably do like more cold shrimp cocktail type thing. More of a, you get like people like their Ocean Club and their, Buck and Rider. People want something more in that line. I'll never be able to deliver a menu like that because the kitchen just square foot isn't big enough, but I can definitely try to meet them halfway and figure that out. So that's kind of where we're at.
Well, let's get a quick message in and then we'll jump back into this because I want to hear more about it. Real quick message for you guys. If you guys are enjoying today's episode, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our email newsletter for all of the cool spots to eat and drink around town, as well as upcoming events and fun stuff like that. Also, we've got some brand new merch on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 brand new t-shirts. So make sure to check out our website for more. Now back to the podcast. We're talking about expanding the kitchen there. What are some of the most popular things on the drink menu or the food menu?
Crab cake, oysters are huge. The chowder's really good there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I love
chowder. Yeah, it's really good. And we do it in a bread bowl. So.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
All right, I know what I'm getting pretty soon here. That sounds so good.
Yeah. 7 trillion calories, but whatever. It's holidays. Let's do it. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just don't tell yourself that while you're eating it. It kind of sours the whole experience. So do you have an idea of some items that you'll want to see? You mentioned oysters. Is there anything else that you'll want to see on the menu once
we're going to talk about a few things. I think we're going to offer maybe a smaller version of a seafood tower.
Okay.
Which would be cool, which you'll have a combination of like raw oysters, some shrimp cocktail. We'll get some crab legs. We'll kind of do some things like that. I just think it'll open up, because what's happening right now is I have one side, there's a line. I have everybody crammed on that side, so cold, hot. I think pulling away the cold and putting them on their own side will also allow me to add some hot dishes.
Sure.
Like I said, if you were talking about any kind of struggle that I've had, it would be with back of the house, finding solid back of the house. And we've gone through a few iterations there too since we've opened. It's hard to get people to go to Scottsdale. Nobody lives over there, so you have to pay them more, and all that's fine. It's just to find solid, because Danny can't be everywhere at once. And when I say Dan, I'm not talking to third person. Danny's chef Danny. People are like, "Are you talking about yourself?" Like, he can't be everywhere at once. So, he's showing these guys how to execute. It's just, it's tricky. It's
Could be a couple days before he's back there to make sure it's
executed the way when we redo the menu, he'll stay and he'll execute and make sure that. But it'll start veering off. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a constant. So he's constantly going to all the restaurants and checking sauces, checking this, checking that. Because it only takes a little bit. I can tell because I've eaten this food so much. I know when somebody's cooking back there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can tell. You wouldn't be able to.
Sure.
But I can tell. I can tell who's doing the pizza. You know what I mean? I can tell.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's the little things, right?
Yeah.
Like, did it go just that extra little bit to get a little more crust or the shape of the pizza or something like that? So, are you personally aren't like a chef or anything like that, right?
No, I burn toast.
Okay.
I understand food.
So finding chef must have been like a needle in a haystack.
Yep, that's the first thing. That's got to come first, because that's not. Look, I understand the business of kitchen. I understand the management of kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I understand food costs, and I come from all of that. But as far as creating, no.
And I would imagine he likes being in a position where it doesn't really sound like you ever try and encroach on that at all.
It only works if you have like separate state, and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have to have that. Like, that's his kitchen. Of course, I make the ultimate decisions over. We discuss menu and what's going on the menu, and I try things and all that, of course. But as far as like how that kitchen's run, that's his world. That's not mine, So
if people come into Pubblico, are the menus the same at both locations?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're just right now about to do we always change it. We always change a few things spring and fall, and we're about to do our fall changes.
Okay.
They're actually at the printer right now, so.
Do you know what any of them are off the top of your head?
So we're bringing back a fan favorite. So we now have a prep person who does all our pasta.
Okay.
Before, the chefs had to come in and do all the pasta. So we had 3 raviolis back in the day, right? So we had our and it's all handmade, so those are difficult, right? Because you're doing the sheet of pasta, then you're putting the thing and you're cutting it. You know what I mean? And then so it's that was weird. So so yeah, it's time consuming, and so. As we got busier, when we first opened, we had 3. We weren't as busy. As we got busier, we had to pull one of the raviolis off, but everybody loved it, and it was just a spinach and ricotta, your basic ravioli. So we're bringing that back because now we have the staff to keep up with it. We are doing a carbonara, which we have never done.
Oh, really?
Yep. We're going to bring that on there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Do you have a favorite menu item?
It changes. Lobster ravioli is probably one of my favorites.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's good. But yeah, it changes. The rigatoni here is like probably our biggest seller. It's our highest selling item, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's a bolognese. You know, it's baked off in the wood fire oven.
Yeah.
2 types of cheeses. Like, it's great. Yeah.
So the oven is wood-fired. Mm-hmm. Why did you guys decide on wood-fired?
You know what? There was a wood fire here.
Oh, really?
I took this over. This used to be Okra.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a restaurant. It didn't last long. It lasted like 9 months. And so there was a wood fire here. And look, Danny can do any, you know, and he prefers wood fire for pizza. Wood fire gets at a higher temperature. You know, who doesn't like that char on the bottom, right? And so it was already here, and we create. Look, you show me a space and where it's located, and I can come up with a concept. You know what I mean? Just like Rockefeller, like I can come up with it. Whether we can execute it or not, you know, we'll see. But I will definitely come up with a concept, what's needed, what you know. But yeah, I mean,
does the other Pubblico location? I imagine it has a wood fire as well.
Pubblico will always have a wood fire. That's part of the concept.
So here you came into the wood fire oven. Was it
there
like
too.
that at the other spot? Oh man.
Yeah. So I have commercial brokers that I talk to all the time. They'll call me and go, "Hey, there's a space over here. It's got an oven already, but you want to come look at it?" It was that kind of thing,
nice.
You know. So
yeah, because from the stories I've heard, trying to procure your own wood-fired oven can be an absolute nightmare.
It's not that it's expensive as far as you can get a good wood-fire oven for 15 to 20 grand. It's the putting it in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
I've heard people say, like, people are giving away wood-fired ovens.
Because if you have the ducting and if you have someone above you, you have to run ducting through. It can be a nightmare. So, yeah, it's
which
tough.
you luckily don't have here.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
So we've talked a lot about your 2 different concepts. Do you have anything else in the works? Maybe even just an idea in the back of your head?
Look, I'm always trying, like I said, I'm always looking to do another Pubblico. Since day one, Danny, he just as good at Italian food, he's with Mexican food. So we're constantly looking to do a cool, hip Mexican spot. What's hard with that is there's always so many, you know what I mean? So something comes available, you're like, yeah, but down the street's that, and then right over there is that, and you know what I mean? It's like, so we will do one eventually. We will.
There's not too much of that up in that North Scottsdale area.
No, there isn't. But there was one already, or I would have done Mexican where Rockefeller is. There's one in there already called Agave de Scottsdale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've not been there before.
It's the old Butters location. You know how Butters moved over?
Yep.
So Butters used to be on the corner there of Via Day, and so that's a Mexican food place. So
when I was a little bit younger, that was like my go-to breakfast brunch spot.
Yeah.
Have you been to it? It just moved actually, but have you heard of La Fonda del Sol? It was like Shea and Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they moved.
I think it's like what is it? Like Via Linda, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of.
No, they're great. They're that classic Sonoran.
I love that spot.
Cheddar cheese on your beans. Like they're the classic. Oh yeah, that's craveable. Super craveable.
Big time.
Yeah.
Well, unless there's anything else you want to say, man, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
I appreciate it. And
this was fun.
Thanks for coming out and taking the time. And
I can't wait to go into Rockefeller because that's kind of my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And my lady is starting to eat more and more seafood lately.
Yeah,
she wasn't a big sushi person, but now she's been eating some.
Good.
That means I spent a lot more money on sushi and things like that lately.
Yeah. Where do you go?
Have you been to Sandfish? It just opened up.
No.
So
because my wife loves sushi too.
It's Melrose District, I think it's technically in.
It's called Sandfish?
Sandfish, yeah.
I'm going to text her that right
It's
now.
a beautiful spot, and it's...
It's Melrose 7th Avenue right over here?
Yeah. I think so, because I've only gone at night and not driven too much around the area when I've gone there.
Yeah.
But the chef is, like, in the top 30 sushi chefs in the world, and I think he's the only one in the top 30 that isn't Japanese born. So they have one out in Palm Springs, and now they brought this one out here. Very cool spot, kind of like they do like a Scandinavian take on some of the dishes, but it's a beautiful location. Their patio out back is really cool. And that's one of my favorite spots. It's not, they don't do rolls, but Chula Seafood, I'm sure you're familiar with. They have wonderful sashimi and things like that. Whenever I want like kind of like high-end fish, but not presented in like a fine dining way.
Not
that's where I
paying
go.
in that, like, It's like, we'll go to Roca Core. They do a pretty good job. They're expensive, but but that's only date night. You know, that's not like, hey, let's go get sushi on a Tuesday.
Or like happy hour at Sushi Brokers is a good one.
Sushi Brokers,
Nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy, but it's for the price, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
where's your sushi spots?
So like I said, we'll go to Roca. We've gone to Nobu. Really expensive.
Yeah.
Very good. Like, I'll give them that. I'm like, this is good, but then I get the bill. The problem with when I go out to eat, I know what everything costs.
Sure.
So when I get the bill, I'm automatically doing math in my head, and I'm going, I'm paying for your build out here. I'm not paying because I know that didn't, so that's hard. I've had over the years, my wife will say, hey, I don't care. Can we just have dinner? Because I'll tell her things,
Sure.
And she'll be like, hey, you're not working, dude. Can we just enjoy, So I've had that.
I have, not with food like that, but I know exactly what you're talking about. They're just like, please stop talking about it, because I don't need to hear it anymore. I'm over it.
We're out to dinner. Let's enjoy ourselves. So, Well, cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for sitting down with us, man. Can't wait to come in and try Rockefeller and get some pasta sometime. And thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.